This is the second of 3 regional meetings that the SPARK committee is undertaking to listen to the needs of Kansans around our state and to talk about the opportunities that we have before us with the American Rescue Plan Act dollars that have come as part of the federal stimulus program to the state of Kansas. We are very pleased to be able to have this event hosted by Dodge City Community College. We want to thank them for their hospitality and thank the team that put together today's meeting. We are going to start quickly with a roll call of the members of the SPARK Task Force. President Masterson.
Here.
Speaker Reichman. I believe he is on the line. Secretary Burns Wallace.
Here.
Mr. Orman.
Here.
Mr. Picker.
Here.
Mr. Rawl.
Here.
And I am David Toland, Lieutenant Governor and Secretary of Commerce. So we have the entirety of the committee present, and we have 2 items on the agenda today. The first of which is to briefly touch on the subject of the continuation of funding for COVID-19 testing contracts, and wanted to make sure that the committee and the public are aware of conversations that are happening around testing contracts with the state. There are good and important public health reasons to continue providing free testing in Kansas. We want to make sure that we continue to do that, because testing is one of the best ways that we can keep the pandemic from worsening in our state. We placed this item on the agenda today to acknowledge that this is an important topic, and I would like the SPARK Task Force to take this up at our next meeting, where we can discuss potential options to fund contract extension for parts of the overall testing program, so that we have a longer ramp down for employers as they're transitioning to meet new regulations from OSHA and the federal government around testing. I want to mention that these contracts are part of a larger vendor contract between the state and the contract labs, which makes this somewhat complex. And so I would like to request that we have a representative from KDHE, which has been administering these contracts, to come to the SPARK committee and share the status on that, so that we as a committee can then discuss options. And so with that, I wanted to see if there were any general questions from the committee or comments related to testing before we move on to public testimony.
Lieutenant Governor, this is Senator Masterson.
Yes, President Masterson, go ahead.
And I appreciate the comments on that, to let the people know that testing is important. I would request that we have in the presentation, I would like to see a presentation on the different testing dollars that have been allocated, because I know we received some earmarked dollars for CARES and ARPA and multiple contracts. I would like to have the presentation include kind of where we're at, the success of the contractor. I know we've contracted with MOD, Well Health, MDL. I'd like a little bit broader presentation, if that's possible.
Absolutely, and I'll make that request now in the recovery office, KDHE, that we have a full slate of data about the various dollars that are available, as well as metrics about what the testing has yielded so far.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to mute out because I can tell there's feedback loop there.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from the committee?
Lieutenant Governor?
Yes, Mr. Orman.
The only suggestion I would make as well is, to the extent that the information that President Masterson has asked for is available, if we could get that in advance of the meeting, that would actually be quite helpful, so that we could consider it and be in a position to ask intelligent questions, particularly if you're going to want us to vote on actually allocating some dollars towards this at the next meeting.
I agree, and we will work to get data out in as much time in advance as possible.
Lieutenant Governor, this is Speaker Reichman.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, in addition, we can look at all the federal funds that have been given to the state that can pay for the testing, if it's been gone to the locals, the school district, or even the part of money, the 1.6 that we've been discussing, to see all the avenues that can pay for this going forward.
Got it. We will include that, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. Okay, well, appreciate the comments and the Recovery Office staff at KDHE. We appreciate in advance your follow-up on these items. Look forward to a good conversation at our next meeting on testing. So thank you. We're going to move on to the primary purpose for being here today, which is to take public testimony. We've got a good crowd here in person. I know that we've also received public testimony that's been submitted in written form that will be part of the record of today's meeting, and so we're grateful for that. We're going to go by topic area. So there are 4 topical areas that we're covering today: health and education, economic revitalization, connectivity, and efficiency and modernization. So our speakers have signed up to speak on one or more of those topics, and we're going to start with health and education and go from there. So our first sign up is Suzanne Campbell from Seward County Community College on health and education. If you would speak directly into the mic, please.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm Dr. Suzanne Campbell. I'm Dean of Allied Health at Seward County Community College in Monroe, Kansas. Seward County Community College maintains several allied health programs, including health occupations, medical laboratory technology, surgical technology, respiratory therapy, and of course, nursing. We have 3 unique allied health programs at Seward. Funding from the Sparks program would benefit our equipment that we use to assist with student clinical simulation. So our high fidelity mannequins, our mechanical ventilators, our surgery models and simulators, as well as things that we use for the other programs. Medical laboratory technology obviously is, we are the people that are doing testing. So we would appreciate that. Our allied health programs also have distance education opportunities. Our medical laboratory technology program goes coast to coast. Surgical technology is online. Respiratory therapy currently delivers also to Dodge City and Garden City. So we would appreciate any funding that could help us revamp our wireless internet for accessibility for our students, as well as continuing to upgrade all of our classrooms to a blend flex model, which means that students can attend in person, they can attend synchronously remotely, or they can participate asynchronously at a later time. So we have utilized some Sparks funds through Seward County, but any additional funding would be greatly appreciated. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Kara Gibson from Heartspring. And next up is Jan Scoggins. So Jan, if you want to make your way over there, save a little time.
Good afternoon, Smart Committee. I appreciate the opportunity to speak this afternoon. My name is Kara Gibson, and I'm the Division Director at Outpatient Services at Heartspring. I am here to represent Heartspring, located in Northeast Wichita. Heartspring has been in the Wichita community since 1934. We employ 500 staff and serve almost 1,000 children from 17 Kansas counties a year through therapeutic and educational support services. We are seeking a combined $14 million in ARPA funding. Unlike other healthcare and educational providers, we did not qualify for most of the federal COVID relief funding that has been released over the last 18 months. With the requested funds, we have three primary objectives: frontline healthcare employee relief, transitional housing, and workforce development. We employ 500 people in Wichita, making us one of the largest nonprofits in the area. Our essential frontline healthcare workers were not eligible for the same rescue funding as other healthcare organizations. However, we have a similar staffing crisis. Fatigue, burnout, childcare insecurity, and inadequate rates of pay plague our industry and organization. Within frontline healthcare employee relief, we increased our minimum wage to $15 per hour on Monday, November 1st. We are enhancing staff training and development. We are partnering with Wichita State to provide all direct service personnel access to the Direct Support Professional Badge Program at no cost to the employee. And we want to invest in our community by building an on-site child care facility to support shift workers. With transitional housing, our goal is to prepare students aging out of the secondary education system for greater independence and lifelong success. By building 3 transitional home environments on our campus, we will give 12 students the opportunity to experience more independent setting prior to moving into their adult community setting. According to the CDC, 17% of children ages 3 to 17 have developmental disability. This is an increasing trend over time and represents the future of our entire workforce. We must prepare our children to be skilled and engaged community members while preparing local businesses to be inclusive, diverse, and supportive employers. Our goal within workforce development are to provide consultations statewide on how to prepare our children for the workforce, train community-based professionals on how to work with the employee and employ children with intellectual and developmental disabilities, and support children and families to help them achieve greater independence and autonomy for long-term success. Hartsburg believes the most strategic leverage point for progress is to invest in our community. We want to ensure access to opportunities for all. The investment of ARPA funding will provide good paying jobs, educational opportunities, modernization to infrastructure, affordable transitional housing, and expanded employment training services to support and train the current and future workforce. Thank you for this opportunity to speak.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Jan Scoggins, and following Jan will be Amber Jones.
Thank you, and welcome to the government. It is a pleasure to be here and to speak to people. I'm going to speak about High Plains Public Radio and what an essential part of the center it is to us out here for quality of life on the High Plains for people living out here as well as traveling through. The diverse offering that is offered to our vast region is more than just for listening pleasure. The airwaves contain many educational programs and cover a 4-state region. We even have a book club that covers all 4 states, and I find that very unique and different. We have daily broadcasts of exploring music. These are all educational. But we need to also remember that the educational component is more than just for listeners. It's essential to our partnership with Oak City Community College and their broadcasting course that we have here. This education really could not be possible if we don't have updated and dependable and functioning equipment. So funds for updating equipment over the vast region of High Plains Public Radio will be very well spent, not only for quality listening, but for classroom learning experience for our students here at Dodge City Community College. I ask you to carefully consider Sparks funding for the benefit of High Plains Public Radio. And I thank you very much for the time and the opportunity. And I want to thank all of you who have traveled from afar to come here and be a part of this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. Next, Amber Jones, and following Ms. Jones is Brian Rita.
Hello, my name is Dr. Amber Jones from Seward County Community College. I'd like to thank Spark Executive Committee for having us. Seward County Community College offers several industrial tech programs that directly impact the economy of Liberal and Southwest Kansas. Industrial programs in the sectors of transportation, manufacturing, and energy. These programs are high quality, cost effective, short-term, career relevant training programs that are aligned to the needs of employers in our region. One of those main focuses right now we have, due to the extreme transportation challenges that have been exacerbated by COVID, Seward County Community College is in the process of expanding the existing and thriving CDL and diesel mechanic programs. Looking for means of funding in that expansion. We are currently investing in ways to build that program by purchasing trucks and training equipment, simulators to expand those. We are in the process of proposing expanding the diesel mechanic shop and the CDL truck driving classroom and lab space. We are hoping to purchase a truck simulator to train students on manual shifting before they get behind the wheel. We are looking at a timeline that will double the capacity for our truck driving and diesel program every 2 years for the next six years. This will help us begin to meet the dire need for truck drivers and truck technicians. The local projections show Southwest Kansas will be needing to hire approximately 1,900 truck drivers and almost 400 diesel mechanics by the year 2028. Being able to address the need will allow us to most directly impact the economy and the needs of our area and address this transportation problem that has been compounded by COVID. We appreciate any funds or support in this area because we all know that we are so reliant on trucks in this region. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jones. Next up is Ryan Ruga, followed by Scott Myers.
Good afternoon, Spark Executive Committee members. My name is Dr. Ryan Ruda, President of Garden City Community College. I testify in front of you today regarding a request for funding through the state Spark funding process to directly impact workforce training and business needs in Southwest Kansas and the entire state of Kansas. We've identified needs from the business and industry partners to expand the number of students being admitted and being trained in our John Deere Ag Technician program. This year, we've had a waiting list of students who did not be accepted, and there are more identified needs for this upcoming year and foreseeable future. The funding request is for capital of $1.2 million to add physical infrastructure, classroom, and shop lab space to be able to accept the additional students on an annual basis. This request for capital will be leveraged with requests that have been made through the Findlay County Spark process to support enhanced workforce training and industry needs, as well as leveraging institutional funds which are available at Garden City Community College. We've also leveraged local Spark funds with the Garden City for other workforce programs on campus, and we will also leverage equipment and machinery totaling close to $200,000 that will be donated from the John Deere Corporation to assist in having this program equipped and capable for accommodating the additional students. We're also working with industry partners such as American Implement to do workforce trainings and earn credentials. This funding request will be a catalyst to meeting industry needs, mitigating the lack of technicians in the field, and supporting an increased need and demand for customer service in the ag-based economy of Western Kansas and the state. Garden City is one of only 2 John Deere training programs in the state of Kansas, and this investment will help prepare and support workforce demand across the entire state. There's strong local and industry support to propel workforce training forward in collaboration with the state support. The additional infrastructure from this funding request will utilize institutional, city, county, industry, and state collaboration to be a catalyst for program viability and industry sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ruda. I might mention for the Spark Executive Committee that we will do questions for the health and education speakers at the end of this slate, and then we'll follow that with economic revitalization, do those questions for all of you at that time, and so on. So next is Scott Myers.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Scott Myers. I have the honor of serving as the Superintendent of Schools for the whole public school system. I testify in front of you today regarding the request for funding through the state's Spark funding process to impact workforce training and business needs in Southwest Kansas and the greater Western Kansas region. We have identified the need for helping provide more skilled laborers to work in the construction industry. With the sheer amount of construction taking place here in Fayette County, there really are not enough highly trained workers in the various building trades. To address this, we are discussing with the Garden City Community College to establish a long-term building trades program here in Holcomb. The shared vision would allow junior and senior high school students the opportunity to get involved in this sort of work, allowing them then to continue their educational journey at Garden City. The shared approach to creating and sustaining a program like this ensures continued success far into the future. We are seeking a one-time capital investment of $450,000 from the Spark funds to help build a dynamic, flexible building trades training center located on district property in Holcomb. The center will provide multiple training opportunities for our projected 10 students annually. Unique design of this training center would accommodate a variety of training options. Portions of the center will be dedicated to plumbing, electricity, or drywall, or framing, or any other building trade skills needed. The flexible nature of the center would allow students the opportunity to run through all the different building trade skills, all within a centralized location. Then the skills acquired would allow the students to move into the actual job site, meeting the need for more highly skilled tradesmen. There's a definite workforce need in Western Kansas, Fayette County in particular. We believe the establishment of this program would find essential workers to engage in construction projects. This result, of course, benefits the entire community in many ways, as the economy would be impacted positively. Due to this belief, USD 363 is leveraging local hours to ensure the training center is built and maintained. If done appropriately, this project can serve as a catalyst meeting local workforce needs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up is Sean Balke, who will be followed by Chris Stagel.
Together, members of the committee, thank you very much for the opportunity. So my name is Sean Balke, and I'm President and CEO with Great Home Care. And I'm here today to request your consideration for our proposal to address a literal crisis occurring for medically complex children across the state of Kansas. Many of them in this area of Dodge City, certainly in this area of Western Kansas. So what my company does is provide a service called Specialized Care. And I am representing the other major providers of this service as well. I am the only provider of this service across the entire state. We serve all the rural areas of Western Kansas as well as Central and Eastern Kansas. And what the service essentially is RN in local nursing that occurs in the home setting. That is a way to allow children who are extremely acute, medically complex and fragile, that are on ventilators, oftentimes tracheostomies, feeding tubes, allows them to discharge from the hospital, so reducing that stress and pressure on hospitals, to come home and avoid rehospitalizations as well as emergency department utilization. And it's done through shift nursing, so not just visits, but shifts that are done sometimes 8 hours a day, 12 hours a day, sometimes 24 hours a day, that keep these children at home. But again, reduce that pressure on the hospital system by having them cared for in their home, in their community, rather than the more costly setting of the hospital. So the crisis today is workforce related. You'll hear it from many other folks that testify. For us, what we're seeing are some downstream effects. I think funding that that has already occurred across the state, certainly well-intentioned. Funding that went to hospital systems has created a situation where we're at a significant disadvantage in the market. Rates that nurses are being paid in clinics and hospitals and medical systems are 2, 3, 4 times higher than what we're able to offer, given the reimbursement that we have. The bonuses, incentives that are offered by these entities are well beyond anything that we can do. So our proposal today is to help us address and fight this crisis, because there are literally children and families going without care that they're in desperate need of, going back to the hospital, utilizing those services when they should not be. So our proposal that I laid out is really broken up into 4 different areas. It's increasing base rates to help make sure that we can offer a competitive rate, that we can actually pay overtime, because we have a lot of nurses that are out there that want to do more, and want to work more, want to help these families, but we simply cannot do it. So we want to be able to offer that. We want to be able to transition these children from hospital settings, Children's Mercy in Kansas City, primary example, certainly others, back to their home community. So there's funding to help with that. We want to be able to offer some similar type signing and retention bonuses to nurses, and to be able to pay nurses more directly to entice them to work in this environment. And then we also want to be able to offer education and training to help nurses have the skill set they need to care for these complex children, and then in turn retain them so that they don't kind of get scared of that scenario. So, if this proposal is viable in any way, I can certainly provide a lot more detail than I have in my written testimony, but I appreciate your consideration.
Thank you very much. Next is Chris Stego, and I apologize if I mispronounced your name.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to present. My name is Chris Stanier, and I am the Vice President of Career Services with Goodwill Industries National Goodwill Industries of Kansas. Goodwill is a federated system of independent agencies, all aligned towards providing a hand up to individuals in need. These agencies exist across the entire U.S. 2 of these agencies, Goodwill Industries of Kansas and Goodwill Industries of Eastern Missouri and Western Kansas, have combined forces to amplify and intensify existing services in 2 critical areas: digital skills training and reentry services. Every year, there's thousands of individuals that are released back into society from incarceration. These individuals need structured programs that will provide them with a pathway to earning industry-recognized credentials that will lead to employment that yields a sustainable wage. Our organizations offer this particular service, and we would like to amplify the service throughout the state. Our service provides an opportunity for individuals to attend college classes paid for by the Kansas Pathway to Career legislation. And additionally, they receive supportive services that include things such as frequent check-ins, milestone achievements, life skills training, physical training, and career exploration and job search assistance. I feel that this is a crucial step towards increasing a much needed workforce with qualified individuals. Additionally, digital skills is also a key concept in increasing our workforce size. And we've all seen the emphasis on digital skills, just like we have here today with the Zoom call, brought about by the pandemic. We've also seen the gap that exists with access to digital skills and software and digital skills training. Again, the agencies that are in front of you today with this proposal are equipped to handle this issue, but we need to amplify this statewide. Both of our agencies have mobile digital skills classrooms. These are classrooms on wheels that see about 10 individuals and can go anywhere in the state, No town is too small, no city is too big. This gives individuals the opportunity to have specified training right there where they live, eliminating issues of accessibility and transportation that cause frequent barriers. Ultimately, we want these individuals to be able to use these skills to either obtain employment or to be able to excel within their current job so they can keep pace with the current level of digital skills. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to the committee today. We look forward to working with state leadership to be able to identify the key areas that need to receive these services first, and look forward to continued communication with the SPARK committee so we can work towards amplifying these much needed services. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we have one final name for health and education. It's Joe Nail. And I see you also signed up for economic revitalization activity. Yeah, go ahead. Yes, please. Thank you.
Hi there. Thank you, members of the SPARK committee. Good to see you again, Lieutenant Governor. And thank you for this opportunity. My name is Joe Nail, and I'm the CEO of Lead for America, and that's a national organization, and then also our Kansas affiliate, which is called Lead for Kansas. And our mission is really pretty simple. We focus on keeping outstanding young Kansans in Kansas for lifelong civic leadership. We have a number of different programs to do that, but our core program is something similar to Peace Corps or Teach for America, but instead of placing people in teaching roles or roles abroad, we help outstanding young Kansans go back to their hometowns or their home regions and serve alongside an existing community leader. So the issues that are the purview of the SPARK Committee, from health and education to broadband to any other issues, we have fellows across the state of Kansas and across the country who are working on exactly those issues. The way our program works is we recruit the most outstanding young people ages 21 to 30 from across the state. We provide them with 3 weeks of graduate level training in public administration and entrepreneurship. We place them in full-time civic roles, again, in their hometowns alongside an existing community leader. And then we help them after their 2 years are up of working on these transformative projects to remain in the communities and continue growing as civic leaders. So for success for us looks like making a big difference in those first 2 years. And then again, keeping outstanding young Kansans in their hometowns, especially rural communities all around the state for many decades to come. In the last 3 years, we've created more than 200 of these new full-time jobs in communities around the state, including Kansas and Wichita, Wabunsee County, Salina, Goodland, and other places. And what I really want to offer Lead for America as is a potential tool as we think about making these deeper investments, particularly in rural communities across the state. We already have a model for what it looks like to have really high capacity young Kansans who can work on bringing, whether it's broadband or health or education, outcomes to their communities. And because of matching funds that we have nationally, both through philanthropy and through AmeriCorps, it's just $20,000 per year for us to be able to create, pay, administer, train, support, and then ultimately retain these outstanding Kansans in their communities and again in our state for decades to come. So I appreciate the time, and I look forward to being able to follow up with members of the committee. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Joe. At this time, if there are any questions from the SPARK Executive Committee for the panelists who've just gone, let's get those out of the way.
Lieutenant Governor.
Yes, Mr. Orman.
I had one question for the gentleman who spoke about providing home care, and I apologize, I wasn't able to write down his name quickly enough.
I think that's Sean Balke. Yep. Sorry, Sean.
No problem. Thank you so much.
Hi, Sean. Thanks for your testimony. Just a really quick question. and that is, where are most of your reimbursements coming from?
Yeah, the specialized medical care service is primarily on the HCBS, technology assisted, and IDE, intellectual developmental disability waivers. So primarily on those two waivers.
Primarily those two. And you know, given the savings of home care over being cared for in a hospital environment, has there been any discussion in this current COVID environment about increasing those reimbursement rates?
Yeah, there actually has been, and I will give the legislature credit. We actually received an increase this year that went into effect July 1st. And it would have been helpful in a normal workforce environment. Unfortunately, it came at a time when we're facing pressure unlike we've ever seen in the market, really within the last 6 months. My organization personally, I've lost 40 nurses in the last 6 months that have been essentially coached by other organizations that can offer higher incentives, higher pay rates. And that's something that we had not seen in the market before. And that's even with the legislature's increase in reimbursement on the TA and IDE waiver. So my request today is to help us level the playing field for a while. Those rates that hospitals are offering, they're not going to last forever. It's not going to be sustainable long term. But we need to help get through this period and get these children and families through this period. They're inordinately suffering right now. They're not getting enough care.
And how many nurses in total do you have right now?
About 250.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for health and education panelists? Okay, well, we want to thank everyone who's given testimony on this subject, and also note that the Health and Education Committee will begin meeting later on here in a few weeks, perhaps sooner, and it will be hosting a variety of public meetings as well to gather more input specifically on this area. So they're going to be doing a deep dive in health and education, just like the folks on economic revitalization topics will as well. So look for more to come, but we appreciate all the testimony that you've given so far. And now we're going to move to economic revitalization. First up is Leanne Simon from Hodgman County, who will be followed by Scott Sprout.
Good afternoon. My name is Leanne Seiler, and I serve as the Hodgman County Economic Development Director. I believe my community's most urgent needs are housing, workforce, and child care. These issues are all tied together. I have a personal story to share with you about the shortage of child care. On August 10th, 2018, I lost my daughter-in-law to suicide in Nevada. Within a week, my 3 small grandchildren, ages 1, 2, and 4, had come back to Kansas to live with us, while their father, my son, completed his military duties in California. On top of the trauma, sadness, and upheaval in their lives and ours, we couldn't find childcare. No one in Hodgman County could take a tiny human under the age of 18 months. We ended up being able to send the oldest, Marilyn, to the school's preschool in the afternoon. We found someone to keep the younger 2 for very limited hours. But that also meant that on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, I couldn't drop them off until 9:30, getting to work at 9:45. Then at 11:30, I needed to pick Marilyn up, feed her lunch, and get her to preschool by 12:20. Go back to work and be back at the school by 3:40 to pick her up and run home and grab the younger ones by 4:15. Mondays went a little bit better. I could be at work by 8:30, but Friday afternoons didn't work at all. As you might guess, it was utter chaos, and I struggled to continue to do my job. In communities without adequate child care, the workforce suffers. We have some amazing people providing home daycare in our community, but it's a really delicate balance. If one of the providers has a healthcare issue or decides to change careers, it completely upsets this fragile balance. I know of one couple who live in Jetmore and work in surrounding communities. One of them would like to change jobs and work closer to home, but they would still have to drive 120 miles round trip every day for childcare because there's no openings in our community.
Other parents simply choose not to re-enter the workforce due to the lack of childcare. Thank you.
Thank you, Leanne. I'm very sorry for your family's tragedy. Next is Scott Sproul. And after Scott will be Trey Greavy.
Thank you for this opportunity, Spark Committee and Lieutenant Governor Tolan. Good afternoon. My name is Scott Sproul. I'm here. I'm here representing a coalition formed to work on value-added development for Kansas. The coalition includes Kansas Corn, Kansas Farm Bureau, the Northwest Kansas Economic Innovation Center, Sunflower Electric Power Corporation. The goal is to increase value-added agriculture success in rural America. So, what do our communities need? Our communities need support for economic growth. They need infrastructure in place for industrial sites to be shovel-ready for business. Workers can be specialized in training to meet the needs of the businesses. They need adequate and quality housing supply, in which this issue has been so ever compounded with COVID and people fleeing to rural America because it's safe. All of our housing stock in all of our communities in Western Kansas have been absorbed. Communities need quality child care, as Leanne just mentioned. The parents need to be able to return to work, and they can't do that without adequate child care. How big is this need? We have been asking rural economic development professionals what their community needs to advance economic development. In just the areas that I referenced, $200 million in projects have been identified. Let's be creative and create a multi-year opportunity for communities to invest in themselves with this Spark money. Our coalition believes Spark funds could be invested in meaningful ways and provide economic vitality to our rural communities. Kansas agriculture does feed the world. We should be strategic about investing in our future and creating long-lasting opportunities for rural communities that lack these resources to grow. We look forward to working with the Spark Committee Task Force to bring forward these projects so we can invest in rural Kansas. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Next is Trey Greavy, followed by Stacy Barnes.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Trey Greavy, Assistant General Manager for Queen Electric Cooperative. Today I'm representing not only Queen Electric, but also Kansas Electric Cooperatives. Today, as you consider proposals for statewide distribution of the federal coronavirus relief funds, we would like you to consider investments in fast charging, especially in the rural areas. The rapid transition to electric vehicles creating an emerging need for access to fast chargers. Auto manufacturers are increasingly moving to EV models. Ford's F-150 Lightning is scheduled to be available for production next year, which could be a huge game changer for Kansas. There are many benefits to EVs when compared with the traditional vehicles, such as no tailpipe emissions. EVs also cost less to operate than gasoline-powered vehicles. On average, it costs less than 1/2 as much to travel the same distance in an EV than a conventional vehicle. Kansas EV drivers can enjoy annual savings of $1,000 to $2,000 annually. And finally, an increased adoption of EVs could have a significant impact on increased grid operating efficiencies, driving down the cost of electricity for everyone. If there's so many benefits with EVs and the forecast adoption is high, why should we invest any public money to build a statewide EV fast charging network? Well, the lack of public charging is hindering the widespread adoption, particularly in rural areas. Public fast chargers are not profitable now, and due to the low utilization versus the upfront investment. EV growth is driven only by the private sector. Charging stations will end up only being in urban areas, creating yet another rural-urban divide. KDOT recently issued an RFP funding approximately $2 million for the Volkswagen Environmental Mitigation Trust Fund for installation of EV fast charging stations along I-70, I-35, I-135, US 81 corridor. This is a great start, but the highway corridors will remain unserved, leaving Kansas without a complete, robust EV charging network. If we don't want Kansas to be left behind, we must start building out the fast charging network today. The time to think about EV fast charging network is now, not when the last internal combustion engine rolls off the production line. As such, we respectfully request that the Spark Executive Committee and the full Spark Task Force make a strategic investment in EV fast charging. Thanks.
Thank you, Trey. Stacy Barnes, who will be followed by Julie Lyon.
Thank you for this opportunity to speak to you today. My name is Stacy Barnes, and I'm the City Administrator in Greensburg. I'd like to touch on a couple of issues that most cities in Kansas are facing and trying to address how these funds could help. Time and time again, as you've already heard today, housing, childcare, workforce development are issues that are top of mind, and all communities are facing. These are not quality of life issues, they are economic development issues. I'm just going to touch on housing specifically. Housing challenges can be very easily addressed with further investment in already successful Kansas Housing Resources Moderate Income Housing Program. KHRC is currently reviewing fall grant submissions and only has $2 million to allocate to projects. Last year, there were 24 applications submitted, but only 7 projects were funded due to the limited budget of the program. This program provides funding to cities and counties under 60,000 population and gives great flexibility in types of projects that can be completed, new construction to rehab, rental or for purchase, single, multi-family. MIH has put many housing units of all types into service across the state since the beginning of the program. In Greensburg, we were awarded an NIH grant in 2019 to construct 4 duplex units that were rented within a month of their completion. There are virtually no rental properties available this time in Greensburg, and that really hinders our growth. By immediately putting additional funds into this already successful program for this grant cycle, and then perhaps creating a spring grant cycle in addition, it could quickly jumpstart housing development all across the state. There is also another tool readily available supporting all of these needs that have been mentioned today, and that is the Power to Go report from the Office of Rural Prosperity and the Kansas Sanford Foundation. This report was released in May of this year and contains responses of 460 surveys and 175 interviews of 21 to 39-year-old Kansans across the state. And it gives a great roadmap for development and investment in our great state. Thank you for your time and consideration today.
Thank you, Stacy. And we have Julie Lyon as our last analyst on economic revitalization.
Thank you. My name is Julie Lyon, and I'm the Economic Development Director for Kiowa County. I wanted to thank you for your time and willingness to hear all of our testimony in regards to the use of ARPA funds. Child care has risen to be one of the strongest economic development drivers in a community. Available and affordable child care is a tremendous need all across all of our communities. Without child care, we cannot recruit new families, period. People don't want to move there if they cannot have a place for their children to go. This need has been identified and many communities are working on it, but it seems that there's no one on the state level helping to champion this effort and show a business model that can work long term. Perhaps the Kansas Department of Education is a potential resource to provide funds to, and our schools can help with this extreme need for our most valuable population, vulnerable population, our 0 to 5-year-olds. When the Office of Rural Prosperity did their listening tours, even prior to the pandemic, they were easily able to identify many of the same things that you're hearing today. and these things have been made more prevalent with the effects of COVID. These have been clearly laid out within the Office of Rural Prosperity and supported with statistics and findings, however, not supported with funding options and clear guidance. I strongly encourage you to appropriate funding into areas already identified: rural housing, childcare and early education, broadband, healthcare, workforce, and community development. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Julie. That completes our slate of economic revitalization panelists. Spark Executive Committee, do you have any questions?
I have a question. Maybe Julie can help with this. We're hearing over and over that childcare is a significant issue, and I guess I'm curious as to what specifically the state or the Spark Committee specifically should do to help with that issue. But what is needed? Why is it not commercially viable to provide childcare in the rural communities? Is there not enough demand, or not enough providers, or what's the bottleneck?
There's several factors that go into that. Lack of providers, a lack of people being able to go through licensing. I'm going to tell you the fire marshal process is not an easy one, and not a timely one. We have a lot of people that are traveling 60 miles, as Leanne said, to go drop their kids off in a different community, come back and work in our community, and then turn around and go pick them up. At some point, it's much easier to just get a job because everybody is hiring in the other community, and after that, then they turn around and just end up moving to that community. So we're seeing an outflow when there are some communities that have success stories, and if we were more readily, maybe a statewide program or a how-to, or here's how to share success stories and talk to these people without having to start from ground zero and say, how are we going to fix this, and trying to do it on our own. I think a statewide resource platform would be helpful. We have great support at the state level from Dodge City that covers, I don't even know, 6 different counties, and she's spread thin. She's very helpful, but she can't do the work for us. So if we could help alleviate some of that with a tool guide or some sort of platform, like I said, at the state level, that would be helpful.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the economic revitalization panelists? Okay, thank you all very much. And again, the Economic Revitalization Committee will be announcing its meeting schedule soon, and so there will be additional opportunities to provide input and to be part of the process going forward. Next, we're going to move to connectivity, and I think, just one person who signed up exclusively on connectivity, and that's Robert DeLeon.
Committee members, thank you for this time. My name is Robert DeLeon. I'm the Community Engagement Manager for Unitas. And I know my colleague, Natalie Mueller, Senior Policy Manager, submitted written testimony about the work of Unitas to you folks. But I just want to tell you about who we are. Unitas is a tech company that builds a platform where we connect, build a network of community-based organizations, health organizations, and government organizations to send and receive referrals and connect people to the resources that they need. I want to let you know that work that she shared with you guys in that written testimony about Unitas is happening in Kansas. United Kansas is now serving in 11 counties in Kansas The first Kansas launch was in Kansas City with 5 counties where community-based organizations can improve organizational capacity through accurate referrals and access to a wealth of data on the local service delivery. Then on October 19th, we launched in Finney County with 22 organizations. And just yesterday, we launched in Central County, Reno, Barber, Harvey, and King counties. Our work continues with launches in Seward, Haskell, Gray, Meade, and Ford counties, in Southwest Kansas, and then in Thomas, Rollins, Cheyenne, and Sherman counties in Northwest Kansas. By September of 2022, the network will be in all counties in the state of Kansas. As Natalie stated in her written statement, testimony, ARP funding can be used to pay for United's platform license to get healthcare providers and government agencies onto the network, creating a public health infrastructure that harnesses community resources to get Kansas back on their feet. The United's platform is free for community-based organizations, making it easier for them to send and receive referrals. ARP funding could not only make sure the network is robust, but also allow for the Kansas government to track outcomes, view progress, and make towards connecting Kansas with needed services. And I'm requesting that you consider the proposal submitted by United to invest in the United Kansas Network. The SPARK committee can make a direct positive impact on Kansas and empower local communities. And so I just want to thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the executive committee for Mr. De Leon? Okay, thank you. We're going to move next to our last subject area, which is efficiency and modernization. And we have up first Michael Quay. And he'll be followed by Florence Metcalf.
Good afternoon. I'm Michael Quay. I'm the Director of Broadcasting at Smoky Hills PBS and a member of the Kansas Public Broadcasting Council. I'm here to ask for your support and SPARK funding for public broadcasting. Television, video streaming is becoming a big issue. People are not, though, watching it on devices that are more than 15 years old. However, public broadcasting is broadcasting video to people that is on 15 years old or even older. It's now time to modernize. As we look to repair some of the equipment that we are broadcasting in, it's hard to find new parts to replace them, and even if we purchase refurbished parts, those are even hard to find on the internet and everywhere else. Now's the time to help modernize. And to cushion it, coming in the future, there's going to be new ways to broadcast television, and now's the time to start with cushioning that blow. As time comes, there'll be new forms of broadcasting with ATSC 3.0, which is also known as next-gen broadcasting. In high metropolitan areas, this is already here, but it's going to be coming in the next 5 to 10 years. Now, with that taking place in those areas, it brings better video quality. It also brings more over-the-top, on-demand video coming from an antenna that's free of charge to anybody that has the antenna in their homes also to receive it. However, right now, Smoky Hills is having problems repairing their equipment transmitters. Whenever something breaks, we scour the internet trying to find that one refurbished part that can fix the equipment. Once we get it there, we hope it can work. You never know what you're purchasing. Now, if we don't fix the transmitters, we're not going to provide Kansas programming that our viewers look for. That Kansas programming, we're not talking about hard-hitting news. If it believes it needs programming, we're talking about programming that our viewers have asked us to air, which kind of like the Father Capon Memorial Service, the small town, rural town high schools championships, and even legislative programming. In fact, during the COVID crisis, when the schools shut down, we changed up our programming and changed to more of a curriculum base for the schools and children to watch. We included actually a Kansas program called Learning Across Kansas, which showcased several teachers throughout the entire state of Kansas. Now, if our transmitters broke, we might be able to fix that right away to get that on the air for them that time. But doing so, we were able to do that at this time. I was able to provide that service. People are able to watch our service. Students, teachers, families were able to watch the curriculum-based programming free of air. Even the ones that have the cord, can't afford cable or satellite, don't have high-speed internet. So, in conclusion, I ask, please consider smart funding for public broadcasting to go further into the future and help provide the services that people are going to come expect from broadcasters. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next is Florence Metcalf, who's followed by Will Murphy.
Good afternoon. Thank you to Lieutenant Governor Tolan and to the Sparks Committee for having this hearing today. I am Florence Metcalf. Most of my life, I have lived in Hugoton, Kansas, which is 90 miles southwest of Dodge City, where I retired as a classroom teacher after 27 years. For the past 50 years, I have been involved in efforts to bring public television into Western Kansas. This started with Friends of Sesame Street in 1971, and then 5 years on the Kansas Public Broadcasting Commission and 9 years on the Smoky Hills Board. I am passionate about public television for Western Kansas because of the educational opportunities that it brings to everyone, from our youngest children to our senior citizens. As David has mentioned, when the Kansas schools shut down, they gathered together and produced the program Learning Across Kansas. And that's included math, science, reading, and language arts programming for school-age children. The ks.gov transmitter near Lincoln, Kansas went on the air in 1989. This transmitter broadcasts the KOD signal to 40,000 families in the 16 counties of southwest Kansas. When it began to fail in 2018, repair parts were no longer available. The replacement cost for a new transmitter was $139,600. The money was raised with a combination of private donations and funds from the Smoky Hills budget. The new transmitter was installed and operational in May of 2020. This is just one example of new equipment is required to keep Smoky Hills signal on the air. Due to the COVID crisis, we have all become aware of the importance of quality technology in our lives. So I urge the Sparks Committee to use the federal funds allocated to upgrade and modernize facilities and equipment for public broadcasting in Kansas. Thank you very much.
And thank you. Next is Will Murphy.
Before I begin my remarks, just speaking not as an advocate, but just as a consumer, I want to plug what those folks just said because I'm a resident of Garden City. It's very nice to have public television in Garden City, too cheap to pay for cable. And it's very nice to have television like Frontline and Nova, not to mention the children's programming, instead of folks shooting each other, whether it's on the news or in prime time entertainment. So, thank you, Michael, for all that you do. I very much appreciate it. My name is Will Murphy. I'm the General Manager of High Plains Public Radio in Garden City. And I'm also the chair of the Kansas Public Broadcasting Council. I host the task force and Lieutenant Governor, the audience today for your time. I'm here to ask the task force to consider investing spark funds to help modernize Kansas's public broadcasting infrastructure. It is, as Michael suggested, the only consistent over-the-air free educational broadcasting system in the state of Kansas. Public radio and television stations used to turn into a federal program called PTF to fund needed major capital improvements. But funding for that program came to a close 10 years ago. Since that time, public broadcasters have really been hard pressed in this state and elsewhere to replace outdated failing equipment. We have a particular challenge in western Kansas, where we operate multiple towers across very large distances to serve a relatively small population, who nonetheless are deserving of the same quality service as their counterparts in Illinois or Missouri or Nebraska or Oklahoma. For many families, we provide primary broadcast service for news and for weather information. This kind of service is vital to what we do. It's our mission, but the cost of delivery for us is substantially larger than the for stations in a concentrated metropolitan environment. The mandate that Kansas public broadcasters were given by legislative statute 30 years ago was to, quote, provide an educational, cultural, and informational service to the people of this state, to provide public broadcasting service at a level of quality comparable to that available in other states. Quite simply, with the current financial challenges before us, I'm not quite sure that public television and public radio in Kansas can meet that obligation. The Kansas Public Broadcasting Council maintains a list of equipment needed to keep our stations current. Version completed last March indicates investment of $26 million is needed to fully modernize our deteriorating infrastructure. Recent creation of the Spark Task Force provides, I think, a unique opportunity to use federal, not state dollars, to address these one-time costs. So we look forward to working with you to fulfill our legislative charge to provide the kind of quality educational, cultural, and informational services that all Kansans, both urban and rural, both expect and deserve. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. I believe you are our last panelist. Is there anyone else who signed up for efficiency and modernization as it's spoken? I have a question. I was curious, I'm not sure I should direct this, but the Learning Across Kansas program, how many households did that reach, or how many children did that reach? Might be a better question.
We actually don't have an exact number, but that program actually aired on all 4 public broadcasting stations, Bunker Hills, Swan Hills, PBS, KTS in Wichita, ks.gov in Topeka, and Kansas City Public Television. I picked it up and we aired it simultaneously at the same time. So we don't have exact numbers.
But it was statewide?
Yes, it was.
Okay, thank you. Are there other questions from the Spark Executive Committee related to efficiency and modernization?
The Lieutenant Governor Will had referenced 26 million in what they consider to be investment needs. Is that information, or has that information been made available to the Spark Committee?
It is not, but it simply could be. We have a fairly detailed list.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to read it.
All right, happy to do so.
Other questions from the Executive Committee? Well, that completes the slate of individuals who signed up to give testimony. At this time, I believe we will conclude this portion of the meeting. We don't have any other agendized items, but are there any matters from the Executive Committee that anyone would like to bring forward before we adjourn? Secretary Burns Wallace.
Good afternoon, Spark members and guests. Just want to give a quick update because we're together and the applications for the Frontline Hospital Workers Program closed last Friday. So just to give you a couple of quick bullet points as we continue to move the program forward. The 122 eligible facilities, 118 applied and will be awarded funding. And so there were 4 that either formally declined or just simply did not submit that we did not hear directly back from. And there was extensive outreach through various mechanisms to ensure that those 4 entities were aware of the availability. What I will say is that the application did close last Friday. We received well over half of the applications within the last 24 hours or so. So you can imagine we're processing through them as quickly as possible. The office held a webinar this past Tuesday on November 2nd with the participating hospitals. All 122 were invited. We had well over 100 attendees. And that webinar really was to go over the reporting requirements and to show them templates and ways that they'll be submitting their reporting to us, both those that were added by Spark as well as the federal reporting compliance. And so it was very well received, took lots of questions so that people are clear on their reporting needs. The first reports are due November 15th and then monthly thereafter through March 15th at this time. I think dollars do go out on a rolling basis. So there are dollars that have gone out. And as we're working through the applications, they'll continue to go out. The facilities do have to sign agreements, get those back and push those through. But anticipate dollars should be going out the door literally daily. We keep pushing them out. So just wanted to give just kind of a quick update, seeing as the application closed last Friday. And we'll have more details and information when we come together again, but didn't want to miss the opportunity to bring people up to speed. So don't know if any of the committee members have questions or other things we can pull or share about where we are so far.
Secretary, the 4 that elected not to apply, were those large, small? How many dollars do you expect are sort of connected to the 4 that didn't apply for it?
A combination. 3 of them were actually a part of a system, and that system crossed state lines. And so there was some concern, as our understanding, around them being able to utilize it on one side of the state versus the other. And our understanding is that it was their decision not to engage. So there was a larger and some smaller ones. And then the 4th is a kind of a smaller rural hospital. Again, we reached out to them. We reached out to others in the community. We also reached out to the legislators in those districts just to make sure they were aware in case there were any, complications or questions. Which I think, if I'm looking at the right numbers, with the 4 hospitals that were involved, it's probably around about 600,000 that would have been distributed to those 4 hospitals. So just to give you an estimate, but as we continue to clean it up, get everything, we'll give you hard numbers in a couple of weeks once we get everything pushed out. So does that help?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Any other questions for Secretary Burns-Wallace? Any other items that the executive committee members would like to bring forward?
I just want to thank everybody for coming out to provide testimony. It's helpful in your time, and I know there's a lot of travel involved for everybody today. And Lieutenant Governor, I just want to make sure it sounds like we're on progress on working on hiring the coordinator for this group too.
Yes, we are. We are moving ahead, and we've conducted one interview, and we've got others to come. So we'll have an update on that, formal update at the next meeting.
Thank you.
Mr. Secretary or Lieutenant Governor, I would like to ask what is the process going to be in terms of communicating with the Spark Executive Committee related to the task force meetings, the information generated by the task force, just being aware of their schedules generally? Are we going to be in the loop on what's going on there?
Yes, Mr. Pickard. So the executive committee that we all sit on will be very much in the loop as the task groups that were established in the 4 areas get moving. We are trying to get our coordinator hired as kind of a first priority as a way to ensure that this moves forward seamlessly and that we've got a coordinated approach to all of this. But so that's the top priority right now. But I would expect that we'll have a more formal update on this at the next meeting of the executive committee. So more to come, and should be good news.
Thank you.
Well, not hearing any other comments, I want to again thank all the individuals who traveled to be here today to give testimony for sharing with us such a broad array of both needs and opportunities and personalizing what these are from this region. We have such an array from allied health equipment to CDL training to childcare to public broadcasting needs. So there's a lot of work for all of us to do collectively over the coming weeks and months, and I'm grateful to have had this opportunity to hear from you directly today and look forward to more of this as we move forward. So thank you very much, and thank you again to our hosts here at Dodge City College. With that, we'll adjourn the meeting and thank everyone for coming. Have a good day.